Dear friends, I'm delighted to join you today in the EU Open Source Policy Summit. First of all, I would like to warmly thank Open Forum Europe for their kind invitation, and today my goal is to share with you the strategy and the vision of the French government on free and open source software in public administrations. I also want to emphasize how much we believe this issue is common to all European countries. Therefore, in the context of the French presidency of the Council of the European Union, we are strongly committed to fostering common work by member states on this important matter. Let me start by insisting on how the crisis has shown that we need to invest to modernize public administrations, especially in digitization. Public administrations were key in maintaining essential services running during lockdowns and difficult times. The citizens are extremely proud, I think, of how the work of the public servants have been done, and they did not spare the energy, the time and the efforts to make sure that schools could remain open, that vaccines could be brought to everyone, or that many other public policies and services could be maintained and delivered. One of the positive impacts of the crisis, in my opinion, is the renewed awareness of the role of public services and of the utmost importance of having modern, effective and resilient public administrations. Another major impact of this crisis is the growing demand for online public services, both for users, citizens as well as companies, and for public servants themselves. Indeed, we consider today in France that around 75% of the contacts between users and public administrations happen through a digital channel, like an app or a website. This was strongly accelerated during COVID-19, and we expect this trend to carry on these dynamics. Let me insist here on the fact that digital online services should never be the only channel to reach an administration. There are many people that are not able or do not want to interact with public administration in that way, and we must provide other channels like phone numbers or brick and mortars public one-stop shops to cater for this need and leave no one behind. These strong digitalization dynamics is also happening in the administration themselves, with remote working skyrocketing over the past few months. In France right now, more than 75% of civil servants are working remotely in France at least one day in the week. For all these reasons, digital transformation is one of the major priorities of the European Resilience and Recovery Plans. Many countries have committed to ambitious goals on the matter, and as Europeans, we should be proud that we have been able to commit on these recovery plans with common European resources. This is a major step forward for Europe and for the transformation of our countries. So in this context of strong digital transformation of public administrations, free and open source software is key. I presented a year ago the vision and the strategy of the French government regarding the public sector digital transformation. This strategy focuses on three main and very simple priorities. First of all, the quality of digital services we provide users and public servants with. We need to build tools and digital services that are simple, easy to use, accessible for everyone, in particular people with disabilities. We need to leverage digital opportunities to streamline administrative procedure, to pre-fill forms, and to anticipate the needs of citizens. The second priority, after quality, is to strengthen openness and the transparency in order to support trust in public institutions and innovation. This means, of course, developing open data and also to make sure we are as transparent as possible on public action and public outcomes. What do we really do for people where they live? We have to go on a step beyond open data to also open algorithms and source codes. Indeed, we have seen in the debates during the crisis, in particular on contact tracing apps, how much public civil servants and users were asking to have a transparent access to code. Publicly available and auditable source code is for me a major condition for trust in public institutions in the 21st century, where digital have more space and more capacity to transform our administration. This is why we have open sourced in France last year many important applications like our national identity system named France Connect or our tax algorithm. And last but not least, the third priority for us is to reinforce digital sovereignty, to allow us to keep control over our data, our digital public services. This means keeping control of the data of our public administration and making sure this data remains in the EU and can under no circumstance leave the EU. This implies both a cyber protection as well as a legal protection, in particular for the cloud providers. This also means to foster interoperability, portability, and reversibility, because they guarantee we keep control of the technology we use, the technology we purchase, and that we can change provider or software as we want. In short, these three priorities, quality, transparency, and sovereignty, are essential in the public sector for digital services. The very good news here is that free and open source software is an excellent solution and a very good path toward these three goals. First, because it allows us to pool investment amongst administrations, ministries, countries, companies, or individuals that are all facing the same problems and that want to work on solving them together. Secondly, it also provides us, by design, transparent solutions that can be auditable and accessible to anyone. And it also strengthens interoperability and reversibility, and it can help us to break the silos and barriers between provider and software. Therefore, we need to accelerate the adoption of free and open source software in public administration throughout Europe. As you know, public administrations have been pioneers in the adoption of such solutions. Here in France, we have a long history of promoting open source software in the public sector, and many administrations, like our tax administration, have been major users for decades. The European Commission just published last year a study on the impact of open source software on technological independence, competitiveness, and innovation. It ranks France first in terms of policies targeting the public sector, ahead of Italy, Spain, the United Kingdom, or the United States. But there is still major opportunities and potential for improvement in this area. This is why the French government has decided to develop a renewed strategy, which I presented last November, for this open source strategy, which now relies on three main goals. First is to increase and enhance our use of free and open source software in public administration. This is a very classic and I think very understandable goal. The second is to make sure that we open all our source codes that belong to public administrations. And third is to use open source software as a way to attract top tech talents in the public administrations. In order to implement this strategy, I have created a centralized team, which is our free software unit, in my ministry, whose goal is to coordinate the efforts of all ministries and all public sector organizations to reach these three goals. I've also launched a public platform called code.gov.fr, on which you can find all open source codes of French public administrations, and I have decided to invest a budget of 30 million euros to develop open source software for the digitization of local authorities. So finally, I want to insist on the fact that we need to work on this challenge at the European level. This is one of my priorities of now the French presidency of the EU. I will organize a meeting of all European ministers in charge of public administrations next month in order to strengthen European collaboration on the major challenges that our public administrations are facing in all our countries. I want there to foster the sharing and the exchange of good ideas, processes, and tools between member states, building on the work of the Slovenian, Portuguese, and German presidencies. We have major opportunities for collaboration to find common solutions, and there is no reason why a good idea that works in one member state should not be reused in another. This is especially true in digital matters because we know it's very easy to share source codes between countries and teams, particularly when it is open. We must go further in these collaborations. Therefore, we have organized at the beginning of January a presentation, a pitch session of digital projects between all member states at the technical level. And I want to thank the teams of Commissioner Hahn for their support in organizing this event. The goal was very simple: identify projects that could be replicated in several countries in order to pool our energies and investments. 7 projects were selected as the most promising in terms of replicability, and they are coming from 7 different European countries. They will be showcased in front of all the 27 ministers during our meeting in March. So you see, France is really committed to create more links and bonds between open source teams and different member states. Many European countries have either created a team or are working on it, so we need to make sure we have a network in place so that we can really learn from each other and share our good ideas. So as a conclusion, I would like to emphasize on the fact that public administrations are really facing the same challenges in all member states, starting with now digital transition. Our ambition is very simple, and President Macron has summarized it as follows: we need to build the public action of the 21st century. To achieve this goal, let us pool our energies and make sure we do not solve the same problem 27 times. It is together that we will manage to build this European public action for the 21st centuries with our value, with our tools, with our open and free softwares. So I thank you for listening to this presentation, and I really thank you for the commitment you have to help us reach and succeed in this direction. Thank you.